The one duty we owe to history is to rewrite it. Guys, that's what we're living in today. History has been rewritten. The Europeans who used to be our slaves, the original slaves, we are now their slaves. The so-called Arabs are the shadow government running the show from behind the scenes, and a lot of people think the so-called Europeans are in charge, but it's really the so-called Arabs. I just wanted to share that quote with you before I get into my somewhat testimony of how I came into the truth. We're going to be doing a lot of random videos on this channel, so if you like what you hear, subscribe. But Christianity, man, Christianity is indeed a false religion, like almost every religion. I grew up a Christian, wasn't forced on me. It's just that everybody in my family went to church. I went to church, even though I always questioned the idea of a white guy, even at an early age. I said, why do we pray to a white Jesus? And white people are in charge and they hate us. You know, as a kid, these unanswered questions led me to question when I got older, you know. Now we see the so-called black man. He's searching for an identity. We're suffering from an identity crisis, like the scripture says we would be. We'll be a vagabond to every single nation. Deuteronomy 28, Leviticus 26 talks about the children of Israel, which are the so-called Negroes today. But let me tell you guys something, not all black people are the so-called Israelites in the Bible. If you guys are not familiar with the scriptures, because you've been reading it from a Christian perspective, Esau traded the God of his father for the moon god, Baal, or what we know him as Allah today. Esau, the brother of Jacob, he failed to keep the commandments of the Most High. He wanted to do his own thing, and he wanted to follow the ways of Baal, so-called devil. I have no idea how a white God or a white Messiah was somehow able to go and hide Egypt against all black people. The original Egyptians were black. Now, if the so-called white race, if they gave up Egypt as being black, they'll have to give up Israel as well, because Egyptians had the children of Israel in captivity. Guys, we've been lied to our whole life. The real children of Israel are black, so-called Negroes. The people that were kidnapped, not sold by Africans, not sold by their own, kidnapped from West Africa, from the border of West Africa, brought over to America, shipped to the South Americas, and to the North Americas, and to the islands. Now we hear so-called Hebrew Israelites go around saying only the black, Hispanic, and Native Americans are Israelites. Yeah, the Negro ones, the ones with Negro features, are the children of Israel. All the children of Israel are black. There's black Israelites throughout the world. Not those white guys pretending to be Israelites. Not those white guys overseas pretending to be Israelites. The real Jews are indeed Negroes. Not those guys in Mexico pretending to be Israelites. Not those guys in Puerto Rico pretending to be Israelites. They're Negro Puerto Ricans. They're Negroes Cubans. Those are Israelites. There comes a time when your DNA changes from white to black. If you continue to keep breeding to a certain race, especially if the father is a European, you're going to get that father's DNA. You are, according to the scriptures, you are who your father is. And most Hispanics, the light-skinned ones, the real ones that look white, they're not Israelites. The Mexicans are not Israelites. The Native Americans are not Israelites. Yes, I'm familiar with the scriptures. the so-called Native American, Latinos, Cubans, the Negroes the ones that got Negro features, those are Israelites, not the ones that look like a so-called European. There's different Caucasians. Just because a person is from a different country, but with Caucasian features, doesn't mean he's not Caucasian. The Most High is going to deal with our enemies. He says, and it shall come to pass in that day the Lord shall give thee rest from thy sorrow, and from thy fear, and from thy hard bondage, wherein thou was made to serve. Guys, if you read that scripture is saying the Most High is going to end our punishment. We failed to keep the law, statutes, and commandments. Our ancestors failed to keep the law, statutes, and commandments. That's why we was given over to the so-called Arabs and the so-called Europeans. Isaiah 14:3, and it shall come to pass in that day the Lord shall give thee rest from thy sorrow, from thy fear, and from thy hard bondage wherein thou made to serve. So we're in the land of our enemy right now, serving our enemy, but the Most High will turn over our, and the people shall take them and bring them to their place, and the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of the Lord for servants and handmaids, and they shall take them captives, who captive they were, and they shall rule over their oppressors. Guys, you heard that scripture. The Most High is going to make the so-called white man our slaves in the kingdom, where they are the oppressors, and he's going to switch that order. You know, the Most High allow us to be taken away in bondage to our oppressors, to pick cotton and do all kinds of crazy stuff, because our ancestors failed to keep the commandments. Deuteronomy 28 all the way to 30 and Leviticus 26. It tells us about Deuteronomy 28 to Deuteronomy 30 tells about how our ancestors failed to keep the commandments. We've been slave to almost every single nation. We're the only people in the world that's been slave to every single nation. The Most High, He gave us to our enemy because our ancestors failed to keep the commandments. But once we find out who we are, we return to the commandments, keep the commandment, and stop listening to the Jewish lies that there are 613 laws. Those guys speak Yiddish. They don't know Hebrew. They've been lying. You Christians that's watching this video, or if you are watching this video, you're going to say, but I'm not a slave anymore. You're still a slave. You just don't know it. You're still a slave to the system. You do your 9 to 5, however you make your money, you're still a slave. The so-called black man is the lowest people in America right now, throughout the world. Dogs are worth more than the so-called black man life, or a so-called black woman. We're still slaves to the system. We're in a strange world. We're in a strange land. We're in the lands of our enemies, guys. You may not know that because you haven't educated your children. Hasn't been educated. You haven't educated your children, or you just don't know that you're still slaves. You're in the land of your captivity. We're living among strange people. These people are Gentiles. You can tell by the way the so-called white people act. The so-called white man and the so-called white church and your pastors who taught you Christianity, who forced Christianity on us, who stole the books of law. Actually, in the book of Maccabee, it talks about the heathens stole the book of law and painted pictures of themselves to look like us. They stole our book. They whitewashed everything, and even try to chop off the noses of the statues in Egypt. The so-called pastor, the so-called white man, the so-called Christianity church tells blacks, or the so-called Negroes, the so-called African American, the true Jews in the Bible. The church and the so-called white man tells blacks they don't need to enjoy now life now. They gotta wait until they die and go to heaven. But how you gonna die and go to heaven if you're not keeping the commandments of the Most High? So you're being bamboozled, you're being lied to. My whole life I was lied to about Christianity of every other religion. Every other religion in this world is connected. The Most High did not give you religion. He gave you laws, statutes, and commandments to follow. But this is the verse that woke me up. Revelations 2:9. One of the verses. I know thy works and tribulations and poverty. Thou art rich. They say they are Jews but are not. They're the synagogue. The so-called Jews claim to be Jews today are not the children of Israel. They're the synagogues of Satan. The real Jews of the Bible are the so-called black man. The only way for us to get out of captivity, for us to return to our rightfully home, which is Israel, we have to return to the Torah. We have to return to the commandments. The Most High said, they who have the commandments and keep them, those who love me. Torah equals love. The scriptures that tell us the entire Torah can be summarized by a single word, love. So what the scriptures say will happen if the Torah is disregarded, and because lawlessness will abound, the love of many will grow old. Matthew 24:12. We see that today. So-called black men not keeping the Torah. We listen to our enemies, the so-called white man. Who taught us the Bible? Who taught us how to read it right? Why would our enemies tell us we're following? Why would we be worshiping the same God as our enemy? Come on, guys. By the way, so-called Jesus is not the name of the Messiah. At the end of Jesus is S-U-S. In ancient Greek, S-U-S means son of Zeus. At the end of every name. The only way to love the Most High is to keep His commandments. The Most High name is Yahuwah. His son name is Yahusha. Guys, Christianity and all these religions are false religions. Most High Yahuwah didn't give us religion. He gave us commandments to follow, not 600